like we're driving forwards in time into spring. The further we go, the more green it gets. Hey everyone, welcome to the Shenandoah National Park. We are on the end of like a 10-day road trip. We're out with the Bushwhacker, and it's been a trip to remember. Some of the things I hope to be able to show you from this trip, we've been in snow, we've been in hail, we've had high winds, we were using the furnace, then we were in rain and high 80s. We were at 89 degrees and I was using the air conditioner. We've been off-grid the entire time, running on both the AGM 100 amp hours as well as the Goal Zero Yeti 1500X, which has been a lifesaver. So, you know, part of what we're doing with this channel is trying to help people get outdoors more. And there's nothing better than a teardrop camper to do that. You know, you don't have the maintenance and the storage issues of these large campers. You know, we can store these in our garage, or if you live in a cold area, you can actually put them in a storage locker. A lot of times those heated storage places have the garage door openers, and these smaller teardrops will actually fit in there. So this has been, it's not the longest trip we took. I took this across the country this winter, but as far as just spur of the moment hitting the road, I was able to do things with this teardrop that I definitely couldn't do when I was tent camping, and I definitely couldn't do if I was in a bigger rig. One of my favorite parts of teardrop camping is this ability to get out and explore even when we have the trailer attached. When we're traveling with larger campers, we have to beware of things like these low-hanging tree branches, or, you know, just driving down these roads with the fear that we're not going to be able to turn around. I don't know whether I would recommend it or not, but there's been more than one occasion where I've actually got out of the tow vehicle and turned my teardrop camper around by hand. I do this with a double caster wheel, and it's really not that difficult to do by myself. This ability to go sightseeing and scouting out free campsites, it's usually on these back roads or fire roads, and we never know what we're going to find. In this case, we pulled up on a free RV site that was already occupied. This was certainly a first. But the idea here is to take notes, use the resources available on the internet, and really be able to see where we could come back in the future. You'll learn, like we did, just to make the most of what you find with these sites, and it becomes an exciting part of our trip. So, you know, the name of the game for this trip has been having gear that works in all of these different settings, being able to test our gear out. And, you know, this is the reason why I wanted to make a YouTube channel, because, you know, if you're going to go out and enjoy the outdoors, you really need some quality gear. And we can't depend on commercials and advertisers to give us the information we need when we're selecting gear. YouTube has been the best place to see actual people using the gear and giving honest reviews. Many of you know that I've kind of trashed the Bushwhacker by Braxton Creek, but you know, for $10,000 you can get in a teardrop camper, and if you have the skills to be able to make some upgrades and repair the seams, you really have a wonderful opportunity to get outdoors, and it's the perfect hybrid between backpack camping and camper, you know, RV camping. Let's try this again. So we just got caught in like a torrential downpour. That's why I have a different shirt on here. But you know, it plays into what we're talking about. To have these adventures with these tiny campers, we really got to have the gear to be able to enjoy all of the, you know, things that Mother Nature has to offer. You see here, the creek is murky. Water levels came up quite a bit. But you know, we're having a blast here. And you know, I had a blast when I was a backpacker. And really, you have to develop the skills to enjoy what Mother Nature has to offer. If it's raining, you know, you enjoy being wet. With Teardrop Camping, you can really, the sky's the limit with the gear possibilities. So while we have a little break in the weather, I'm going to take you through the setup that we're using here in the Shenandoah Park. And this is a different setup than I was using 3 days ago. So the versatility is key. And it starts for me with this guy right here. Having a cap on my truck, you see what a mess this is? But when it started to pour out of nowhere, I was able to throw everything in here, and now I'll organize it. You know, it was out of the rain. The next setup is my Euromax. You know, I've had a lot of these, and this thing is quality. You know, I might have mentioned this a few times. I don't know how this edit will come out, but this thing cartwheeled when we were camping in the Catskills at like 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning in a hailstorm. And it was my fault. I didn't stake it down. We were in a hurry. And I just set it up right, and there's no damage. I don't know how many of these I've roached over the years, but this one is the best. It has these optional sidewalls. Going with one setup now. When we were in the Catskills, I had all 4 set up. But it gives me, with this little rug, this front entry, and I have it set up so that the water comes and rolls off the side of the teardrop. These guys are just dollar store pagoda lights. They're weatherproof. I leave them out in the sun and set them up at night off the roof rack, and it gives you just a little bit of light to be able to find your way back. I have one stuck in the Velcro over here. And now on this particular leg of the trip, I brought my uncle with me, and he's tent camping, but we actually stuck the tent in the screen room. It gives you a little bit of space to walk around out of the weather, and it makes packing the tent up dry just a lot nicer. You know, these canopies pop up so easy that if you do put them away wet, you can just pop them up when you get home, and they dry out quick. You know, the tents, we're hanging them on clotheslines and stuff. I've tethered the 2 of these together. You know, the thing with these clam sets is you really do have to stake them down pretty well. They handle wind excellent, but you don't want, as I showed you in the Catskills, you don't want to cut corners. Here the ground is like bedrock and granite. So I used this little weighted bag and filled it up with rocks. That worked great. Over here, you see I was able to get a stake in. You know, so I'm using this Tupperware, and this is a critical part of teardrop camping. To be able to store gear outside and not worry about the weather, and its multi-purpose use here is as a table. You know, lots of flashlights. This one has a solar panel on it. It's from Goal Zero. This chair, it's the same thing. You know, if you've used these chairs, you know, they pack nice, but they're not the most comfortable thing in the world. This guy over here, I got on Amazon, has the table that comes out the side, the pouches where you can store your car keys and your lemon eucalyptus bug spray that doesn't work. You know, so coming out here and tiny camping, it's not about you know, spending $20,000 on gear. But if you enjoy the outdoors and you don't want to revolve your trip around checking for the weather, you know, I go on trips when I have off work, and it doesn't matter what the weather is. This trip was a perfect example. Snow, 80, it's probably 80 degrees out right now in Virginia. In the Adirondacks, the wind was blowing 30 miles an hour and it was in the 20s. You know, and we did this all within 10 days. What I'll do now is just take you through the Bushwhacker just a little bit. We got these Camco leveling blocks for the front. I like elevating this a little bit because it has more stability. If in this case I had to elevate it almost like 30 inches in order to level the trailer, and if I do it all with the tongue jack, it gets leverage and I lose my ability to have a good stable footing here. We're going with like 100 amp hours of AGM, and I have been charging this with the sun. I've been charging it with my Goal Zero with a battery charger. So I'm going to show you how we're charging today. So we're boondocking. We have no electric here. And what I'm doing to charge today is kind of unique. I'm using my Goal Zero 1500 with a Genius charger and charging the 250 amp hour AGM. So I have 100 amp hours of AGM. That's only 50 amp hours that I can use, more than enough. But I'm actually running this Genius battery charger into it. What's convenient about this is it has this waterproof plug here, and this plug goes to eyelets on the battery. This stays permanently installed on my camper. And this is actually running to my Goal Zero to charge with the AGM charger. And you can see I'm just topping off now as that green light comes on. Now, this is not, here we go. This is not the most efficient way to charge anything because you're going from AC to DC back to AC. But basically the reason that we're doing this is because I'm going to take off today and drive the Skyline Drive and go for a hike. So while I'm driving for a couple hours, I can charge my Goal Zero with my car, which means I don't have to leave my solar panels out. It's kind of overcast and raining today anyway, and I can use this morning to charge up my RV battery, and then I'm going to charge the Goal Zero while I'm driving. So, you know, there's no perfect situation here. It's certainly not the most efficient way to do things, but, you know, there's so many different ways that we can extend our boondocking trips, and this is one that I haven't seen before, so I figured I'd show you that. 24 gallons of water storage comes in handy. But one thing I'm disappointed with this Bushwhacker is so many tiny camper owners like to set up from their galley space. And I do that a lot, but this guy leaks. Drip, drip, drip. And you see sponges and terry cloths. That's no good. You know, I've spent so much time trying to fix this. But what it comes down to is the length of this hurricane hinge. I've had some really, really handy people reach out on my YouTube channel, and what they're saying is that they're actually installing a longer hurricane hinge here. Now, you shouldn't have to do that with a brand new trailer, but the way that I use for a workaround on this is sometimes I take the Euromax and put it over the entire back of this. So when the water runs down, it runs down from the center and runs off the front of the trailer and not down on the hurricane hinge. But, you know, it is what it is. For this trip, it's been handy to just use a portable stove and coolers and not live out of the galley like we do sometimes. So, you know, I have a cooler, a little trash can back here, and I have some additional water. This is drinking water that I set on the picnic table. So we're going to take a minute here and get away from the campsite and check out this world famous Skyline Drive. It really is the highlight of the Shenandoah National Park. Now, if you tune into a channel like this just for the tips and tricks and recommendations on equipment, stay tuned because when we get back to camp, I'm going to show you how I select campgrounds, and we're also going to take you on an inside tour of how I set up the Bushwhacker on these longer trips. So make sure you check that out. As far as the few bucks it costs to get into these national parks, money well spent. I really feel like, as outdoor enthusiasts, it's one of the most important things we can do. The United States National Park System is incredible, and for the few bucks they ask you to enter these parks, it really goes to an excellent cause. As far as the East Coast, we don't have many of these parks. So to have this Shenandoah Drive with over 105 miles, with over 70 lookouts and hundreds of miles of hiking, really is a treasure to experience. After over an hour in the car, we decided we were going to stretch our legs on one of the hundreds of trails that are available in the park. It seems like Shenandoah National Park has more waterfalls than any place that I'd ever been. Another noteworthy quality of the hike was how few people were out on the trails. Whether it was COVID or the season, it seemed like half the people we saw were actually Park Service workers that were maintaining the trails. The trail quality was well above average, and in fact, for what I'm used to, it was even a little overdone.
Hiking trails.
Rock.
I'm sorry? It's a beautiful rock.
We got out of the woods at the perfect time. The sky started to close in on us, and it became pretty clear that our trip out here was going to be a little bit different than our trip back. So in addition to these spectacular views, one of the nice surprises on the way home was realizing that the Goal Zero had gone from 50 to 80%. That's more than 42 amp hours of storage and more than I had used in the RV for the previous 3 days combined. So our little experiment was a success. So after a long day, it's good to be back at camp. As promised, I'll share some tips and tricks on how I select a campground. The truth is, I don't stay in campgrounds often, but when I do, I call ahead and I ask more questions about vacancy than I do amenities. It's not that I don't like people, it's just for a camping experience, I'd much rather get off the beaten path and find a place that's not being used as heavily.
It's also important to remember if you find a place like this, which we basically had to ourselves, there might be a reason for that. In this case, it's the bathroom.
Welcome to the House of Horrors. Toilet seat, optional. Why put a shower up level when you can put it up crooked? Peeling lead paint, terrifying rusty shelf, and dilapidated window. So we're getting ready to go to bed here on the last night of our trip, and I thought I'd show you inside the Teardrop, show you inside the Bushwhacker. For those of you who haven't seen this before, this is the 10SS model, and I've done very few modifications in here, but Lucia added some curtains, and she would she's probably going to kill me when she sees these. They look a lot better when she ties them up. But I believe she had these made on Etsy. They're custom to this. And we use little stick-on curtain rods. And we have one on each side. And they can go up and down. And they're pretty handy. Gives you an element of privacy, a little better insulation. And when Ripple's in here, it stops her from barking at birds in the morning. So those are pretty nice. If any of you have the 10SS and don't know about this, these cushions can be stowed on this top shelf. They fit perfectly, and they actually slide in really nice there. So I'm using one, and the other one I have stowed away. But people always ask if it's claustrophobic in here, and the truth is it's really nice. It feels very comfortable. It's very spacious. It's like you're in a large dome tent, and some of the tricks that you learn, you know, you want to use command hooks. I have a raincoat, and behind it I have a warmer coat if I have to get outside. You know, I hang my car keys and chopsticks and stuff up here, and we put some baskets for the top shelf. But I'm here by myself in this trip, so I'll even store my duffel bag inside. If I was with Lucia and Ripple, obviously this stuff would be stored in the car, but it's convenient to have in here. If there's anything that's over the top for this trip, is because we are boondocking here, I do have my goal zeros. I have my small one that I use for my phone and camera gear, but I actually have the 1500 here on the side. Now this is a bit over the top, but this actually runs the window air conditioner. So on this trip we did have one night that was in the 80s, and obviously you could do without, you know, you certainly don't have to own all of this gear to go teardrop camping. But what's really neat is that you can control the goal zero with your phone, so I can actually set the air conditioner up and control that from my phone. And in addition to making it a little cooler in here, it keeps the humidity low. But obviously it's perfectly fine to open the windows and run the ceiling fan as well. But I just wanted to take you on a little tour and show you what the setup is like in here. And I have a memory foam topper on top of the mattress, and this is more comfortable than my bed at home. This really is just a wonderful place to sleep at night after a long day of hiking and fishing and, you know, enjoying the outdoors. So, you know, it is what it is. Setting up in a campground, I don't always go to campgrounds, but to be able to set up in a campground for like 24 bucks, I have no electric, no utilities here, but I do have a base camp. And I've left here to go hiking. I've left here to drive the Skyline Drive and see that amazing view from like the 100-mile road that goes through Shenandoah. And I've been able to come back to a nice dry place to sleep with a bed. And it allowed me to set up this more elaborate campground because I knew it was gonna rain for about half of every day on this trip. So the versatility to be able to set up my gear a million different ways and enjoy everything that gets thrown at us out here, you know, it's just been what really facilitated a really great 10 days. So I'm not doing this to, you know, show off or anything. I learned how to do this by getting good advice from people and watching a lot of YouTube channels. So I like to be able to share that with you guys. And I love the interaction from the comments. People give me great ideas and tips that I use all the time. So I appreciate you watching. Hit that like and subscribe button. I know all of us YouTubers beg for you to do that, but it's the only thing that allows us to make new videos. So if you take the moment to hit that subscribe, I'll be able to keep showing you these tips and tricks from the road. Thank you very much. Adios.